DT 4120, Serious Gaming and Simulations. Week 2, Analog Meets Digital, video clip 3 of 4. I'm Professor Bill Kapralos, and over the next few minutes I'm going to talk to you about video games. And more specifically, I will discuss the video game phenomenon that we are currently in. However, prior to doing so, here's the list of analysis questions for this particular video clip. Number 1. Why are video games so popular? Number 2. What are the positive aspects of video games? And finally, number 3. What are the negative aspects of video games? Video games, and in particular the video game phenomenon. It's no surprise to all of you that video games are extremely popular. In fact, many of you probably play video games on a regular basis. When we look at video games in terms of an economic point of view, according to The Economist in 2010, the video game industry, software and hardware collectively, amounted to approximately $56 billion. And despite the economic downturn that many countries are currently in, the video game industry is generally growing, and growing at approximately 9% annually. In terms of revenue, it surpassed the film industry in 2003, and it surpassed the music industry in 2007. Here is an example illustrating the popularity of video games. Consider the video game Call of Duty Black Ops, a first-person shooter video game that was released in 2010. In 24 hours, it recorded sales of approximately $360 million, breaking all records. Over the period of 6 weeks, sales exceeded $1 billion. Video games are extremely popular, and this video game phenomenon, as I like to call it, is certainly not a fad, and it will not pass. Video games are here to stay. I will now briefly outline some interesting facts that originated from within IBM and their work with the Sony Computer Entertainment several years ago. These facts will provide a good indication of who's playing video games, and is certainly not only the typical male adolescent anymore, as it once was. When we look at 8 to 18-year-olds, male and female, 83% of them have a video game console at home. 86% of those that have a console at home have 2 or more video game consoles at home, and 55% of them own a handheld video game player. They spend a minimum of 1 hour each day playing video games. Up until several years ago, the typical game player was male adolescent, and they were playing first-person shooter type games. However, video games are no longer specific to adolescent males, but rather girls, children, adults, and seniors alike are all playing video games. In fact, 38% of all game players are women, and women over the age of 18 represent a significantly greater portion of the game-playing population at 31%, in contrast to boys that are aged 17 or younger, which account for 20% of the game-playing population. Furthermore, 67% of American gamer parents play computer and video games. 80% of these gamer parents play video games with their children. And 66% of these gamer parents feel that playing video games has brought their families closer together. We're playing video games, and the typical game player is no longer that stereotypical male adolescent. In fact, the average game player is currently 33 years old and has been playing video games for 12 years. What brought about this rather sudden shift in video game demographics? A large part of this was in fact due to the availability of some rather innovative yet economical technology. Take for instance the Nintendo Wii, which was introduced in November of 2006. The Nintendo Wii plays a large role in promoting and bringing video games to the masses. Through the use of its innovative controller, all of a sudden video games moved away from the typical single player playing in front of a screen to a group of individuals interacting together. It actually provided video game designers and developers the opportunity to develop some engaging and interactive experiences. The Nintendo Wii and its emphasis on interaction has actually brought video game play to the mainstream. It's now all of a sudden cool to play video games. Furthermore, those that are playing video games now only several years ago would not even dream of picking up a video game. For example, the Wii is currently incorporated at a number of old age homes to improve elderly residents' physical health. And it has also done a lot to bring the elderly together to interact in a fun and engaging manner. Furthermore, since the introduction of the Nintendo Wii, various other technologies have become available which play even further on this whole interaction paradigm. For example, the Microsoft Kinect incorporates some innovative camera-based technology to remove any form of controller from the user altogether. All of a sudden, we interact with the video game with our entire body. We can use our hands through simple hand gestures. We can even use our legs. We can use body movements to interact with the computer, further developing this whole interaction paradigm and ultimately creating even greater and greater engaging experiences. Before moving away from the topic of video game popularity, I just want to point out one more fact that will further cement this notion that we are playing plenty of video games. Let's look at the 10,000 hour rule. Anders Ericsson was a psychologist who researched the success of violinists at the Berlin Academy of Music. And he found that violinists that performed the best spent more time practicing. So in other words, practice makes perfect. He also found that 10,000 hours was the average number of hours that the violinists spent to achieve their success. In other words, expert violinists spent on average 10,000 hours practicing their skill. This has actually been applied to many other skills and professions as well. It applies not only to violinists, but composers, writers, artists, surgeons, amongst others. In terms of time, this is the same amount of time that a child with perfect attendance spends in school from 5th grade to graduation. Now here's something interesting. By age 21, the average American will have spent more than 10,000 hours playing video games. We are playing a lot of video games. And of course, we can also look at this again with respect to time. This is equivalent to 5 years of work at a full-time job. And when we look at the total amount of time that the World of Warcraft game has been played, it comes out to 5.93 million years collectively around the world. On average, again globally, it's estimated that 3 billion hours are spent gaming every week. Just to emphasize, we are playing plenty of video games. And of course, the young kids are playing even more games. But keep in mind that these young kids that are playing games currently are going to grow up to be our leaders, our teachers, our educators, our doctors, our lawyers. Any discussion on video games should look at the positive aspects of video games as well as the negative aspects. There's many positive effects that have been attributed to video games. Aside from the effects of learning, which of course we're going to focus on later on in the course, previous studies that have examined video game players have shown that video game players have superior hand-eye coordination, they have fast reaction times, they have superior spatial visualization skills, and they have an increased capacity for visual attention and spatial distribution. With respect to superior hand-eye coordination, there was a recent study that examined video game players' hand-eye coordination and compared it to the hand-eye coordination of surgeons. It was determined that video game players and surgeons actually score very similarly on various hand-eye coordination tasks. Now, of course, it's not to say that every video game player can be a surgeon. Of course not. It's just to show that playing video games does improve your hand-eye coordination. In fact, it's also been suggested that surgeons can actually play video games, first-person shooters in particular, prior to a particular operation to practice their hand-eye coordination skills. But of course, in addition to the many positive aspects of video games, there are also many negative effects. Video games have been linked to decreased academic performance, particularly because kids are playing video games and neglecting their schoolwork. Decreased pro-social behavior. Again, in many cases, kids are actually playing video games and keeping away from everyone else. And it has also been linked to aggressive thoughts, feelings, and aggression. This whole notion of video games and aggression is somewhat of an open topic, and there's arguments to both sides. Some studies have suggested that video games lead to aggression, others have disproved that claim, so it's still a rather open, ongoing debate. Video games have also been linked or correlated to smoking, obesity, and physiological arousal. And then there's this notion of video game addiction. Although video game addiction has yet to be officially recognized by the American Medical Association, it has been estimated that more than 5 million kids in the United States alone may be addicted, according to an AMA report. So these are some things to consider. There are various positive aspects of video games, but there's also the dark side to video games. So that leads us to the end of video clip 3, and it brings us to our synthesis questions. And in particular, question 1, how does rule enforcement differ between digital and non-digital games and simulations? And this is the end of video clip 3. Thank you.